All right, welcome back to the Walk and Talk series, episode 2 at the Reprogram Online. And today I want to talk about the training, this thing called training maturity, what I labeled training maturity last episode. And I said I was going to do a follow-up video on it, and here it is. So what I've done is I've got a list here, handwritten as well, of the points that I think are really relevant. And I did actually ideally want to not have it written down, but I realized there was quite a few bits to talk about, and I think you'll relate to it quite well. And it basically just describes the main differences between men training in their 20s and 30s and kind of the mindset and the training approach compared to someone in their 40s and 50s. And it can actually become quite paradoxical, and I'll explain that at the end. And there is a caveat to it as well. But let's get straight into it. So the first one, so there's six points for each category, and the first one is mindset. So the first category is mindset, driven by ego, insecurity, and social pressure. And now, obviously, when we're younger, we're in competition with other males. We're trying to get girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever, and it's very much a competitive driven environment, and we don't really see things rationally as we should. We're naive, we're immature, and that's the kind of the 20s and 30s approach. The 40s and 50s would be driven by wisdom, self-respect, and purpose. And what I'll do is I'll kind of go down these points and explain a few at the end. Men in their 20s and 30s, training is identity. Gym performance and appearance define self-worth. And whereas in 40s and 50s, training supports identity, and that's a really important one. I really like that one. It could be whether you're a father, a husband, a partner, leader, friend, and it really makes a big difference into your general mindset of what's actually going through your mind, through your method of training. Third one is fear of looking weak or being judged in the gym. I can certainly relate to that one. I remember when I first started joining the gym, and I'm surrounded by these huge guys around me, and just felt a bit intimidated. And then when you're in your 40s and 50s, bearing in mind I'm in my 40s now, so I can kind of speak on this, is that you're just totally confident in your own path. You're totally focused in your approach. You don't give a shit about what people are thinking. And it becomes very natural, and you just kind of stay focused and get on with your own thing. And then the fourth one would be seeks admiration from peers and friends. So when you're in your 20s and 30s, you're very much looking for this approval. You're looking for this validation. And, we kind of seen that kid who puts on, or I've had friends when we were younger who can put on muscles just by looking at weights. And they generally become the guy who's this big, buff monkey in the gym. And that becomes their identity. It kind of follows back to that identity one. Whereas if you are in your 40s and 50s, you earn the admiration from people of all ages because of the journey you've gone through, because of your experience, because your body, you're now at the age where you can tell a story. And your physical prowess at the age of 40 and 50, if you're doing impressive things in a gym, your movement's good, you're strong, you're almost behaving in an unnatural way for someone your age, that earns admiration, it earns respect. People start coming up to you and asking questions, and they can see that your ability and your capacity for movement, if you like, has been earned. It's something you've been working on, and they can see that you've gone through a journey and they want to know more about you. So it's one is where you're craving respect and you're craving admiration, and you think you deserve it just because you can lift a bit of weight. And the other one is that people just start respecting you because you've gone through that journey and you're the image of the minority out there, right? So that's really important. Men in their 20s and 30s, no long-term perspective. That's a big one. They want quick results. They want all the muscles now, the looks, the respect, the girl, whatever. Kind of that cheerleader, frat boy syndrome, if you like. And then you got the 40s and 50s where it's like you train to stay functional. You've got a long-term purpose, that you're training for that longevity. And you're trained to stay functional, energetic, and capable for life and loved ones. And that kind of goes back to that supporting, your training is supporting your life. It isn't your life. It should support your things. It makes you a better father, right? Who doesn't want their young son to look at them and think they're Superman? And kids can tell when they come out of school and they're, there's some parents waiting outside to pick their kid up. Of course he's going to be proud that his dad's the strong, fit one, right? It makes you a better husband. Your wife's still attracted to you. It makes you, or partner. You have a better relationship, and most likely you're going to have a strong relationship because you're going to be with a strong, attractive woman as well, hopefully. And it makes you a better friend. Like if you've got a friend in need or he's going through a tough time, you can go out and do something active, go for a hike up the mountains, go camping. And if you're strong and physically able, it's going to shine through in a good way to support your friend. So that was kind of the 6 points in the mindset. I've only got one hand, so I've got to unfold this paper. The training approach, when you're 20s and your 30s, most of the time, and this is most of the time, and for most men, obviously I'm excluding training athletes and things like that, but that is kind of the part of the paradox as well, so I'll kind of go over that in a minute. But for the training approach, you've got unbalanced, unperiodized programming, and basically big weights and big muscles are the goal. So it kind of goes back to that no long-term prospect, want all the results now, want the look, want the respect. So you can see how these tie in, and then 40s and 50s, smart programming, pain-free performance, movement advancement, strength and conditioning, longevity. And that's exactly one of the things the reprogram stands for, particularly, is this longevity and making sure you do things right from the get-go. Number 2, mobility is seen as unnecessary and for pussies, right? And I certainly remember this when I first started. I couldn't be bothered to stretch. I didn't see the need for it. Didn't see how it was going to impact me or whether it's needed. I just wanted to build muscle. And obviously I paid for that with countless injuries: shoulder impingement, hip impingement, lower back pain, neck problems. And then 40s and 50s, mobility is essential and is the foundation of training and long-term physical health. So that's a really, really important one. Again, another underpinning foundation of the reprogram online. Number 3, warm-ups are rushed, unintentional, and sometimes skipped completely. Yeah, I was certainly guilty of that when I was in my 20s. And it's particularly in your 40s and 50s, warm-ups are thorough and non-negotiable. And this is really important as well, because it's just an immature time. When you're in your 20s and 30s, you just want to sort of get on with the fun stuff, and you don't see the importance of all this stuff until stuff starts going wrong. Number 4, pain is ignored. There's a train through pain mentality. This is a really big one as well, because particularly with the peer pressure of your friends, you do get that just fight through it, don't be a pussy. There is a lot of social pressure, and it kind of goes back to that mindset. Whereas when you're in your 40s and 50s, pain is feedback. It's a messaging signal. Signals are respected and responded to immediately. So if you do feel any discomfort, any pain, you stop, and you have to evaluate why you're getting it. And a lot of people don't have the knowledge to evaluate it. Okay, and again, that is something that the reprogram does for you, the way it's structured. Number 5, recovery is seen as annoying and often neglected. This is really important. I've had clients who just hate the recovery part in between. If it's in the workout, in between the sets and reps, they hate waiting for the next set. They hate it. They would rather just go straight on to something. And what they don't understand is that without recovery, their performance in the exercise they're doing will be shit. They won't have the energy to perform at their best at the next set. And it goes back to a lot of psychological trauma where they just don't like being still. They don't like their demons coming in the front of their mind and knowing all their anxieties and things. It is a psychological thing, sometimes a social thing. And it is definitely a learning point, and one of these things that goes away as you get older, because you accept who you are a bit better and you understand and accept the limits. And that's kind of where it goes into the 40s and 50s. Recovery is embraced as critical to performance and progress. So you actually look forward to the recovery more than the actual workout. And when it that, so that's kind of in between the sets and reps, and then on the days off, you enjoy it as well. You understand that that rest is what your body needs, and you look forward to the next workout knowing you'll be fully charged. Number 6, disconnected. So when you're in your 20s or 30s, and this is kind of summarizing. So the pattern between all of these is that you're generally disconnected from what your body needs: the pain, nourishment, sleep, discomfort and fatigue. You just kind of do what your friends do and push through it, and you think, you have this mentality, if I lose today, I'll lose it all. And it's just a bit naive. Whereas in your 40s and 50s, you kind of get to a point where you listen to everything. You take note on your sleep, you take note on your nutrition. If your body's missing nourishment, you get on it and you feel it. You listen to pain signals, you listen to discomfort, and you react straight away. So you're more connected and one with your body. So the thing I'm trying to promote here is that training, in a way, gets better in your 40s and 50s because you have this experience of what happened in your 20s and 30s. I'm not saying everyone does this, but 95% of people do, because I see it. And the paradox is that if you're a professional athlete, you actually do train. So the stuff I read out under the 40s and 50s column, your training is like that because you're training under a coach who has the mindset of a 40 or 50 year old, able to train you younger. So basically what he's doing is, it's like someone's gone up to him and said, if you could go back to when you're in your teens and 20s and tell yourself training advice, what would it be? That's exactly what a professional sports coach does, a strength and conditioning coach, whether it's a gymnastic coach, some kind of strength training coach. He will give you the best advice of all his knowledge and accumulated knowledge over the years to stick to, and you will avoid these chronic injuries and pain. I use gymnasts because it's quite a relatable topic for me. And as the reprogram is quite calisthenic in nature as well, movement advancement. It's not about adding weight to basic movements, it's about movement advancement. If you go to the website, you can see more about that. But what he'll do is he'll take that accumulated knowledge and give it to you to stop you from getting in chronic pain, to focus on your posture, to make sure your structure is balanced. And you avoid all this stuff. You might get injured in the events, like in the gymnastic events, but that's known as acute injury. You certainly won't be struggling with long-term joint pain and long-term pain unless you do something really bad, right? But the whole training system is done to avoid that. Whereas the general population in their 20s and 30s have no idea about this, and they basically just do monkey see, monkey do, or download basic programs that usually from an imbalanced perspective as well. Remember, many people starting the gym are already structurally compromised, so they usually build upon that, and that's where these injuries happen. And then the other side of that is, the downside is that because they learn to do everything correctly in the beginning, they usually become, if they wanted to become a coach, it's usually not very transferable because they haven't learned what happens when it goes wrong. Okay, so there's a kind of a flip side to it all. It's like, yes, you can do everything right, and you've got all the knowledge and experience from these older coaches just telling you what to do when you show up, and you do it, and you're a great athlete from a professional standpoint. But the downside is that you won't learn anything. And that's exactly kind of where I'm the opposite to. I basically, when I was training in my 20s and 30s, I was Gen Pop. I had all these injuries, had to work through it, and here I am today, pain-free, making videos for you to tell you how to achieve it yourself. So I think that's pretty much it. That's the basic I wanted to go through. So that is training maturity. So if I had to put a definition on it from Coach Andrew, how do you define training maturity? It would be the shift from impulsive, naive, ego-based workouts to strategic, self-aware, effective training that is based on longevity. That's it. So training maturity is the shift from impulsive, naive, ego-based workouts to strategic, self-aware, effective training for the purposes of longevity. Okay, all right, so that's it for today. If you like what I'm talking about, you'd like to see what I do more of, check out www.thereprogramonline.com. Check this out.